You don't even know my name, but I'm on top of the world. It's the summer of 1994 in Moscow. According to rough estimates presented to President Yeltsin, the company I had recently founded has accumulated about 2/3 of the entire nation's GDP. I control most of the cash flow in Russia. All this is happening on the brink of a massive privatization campaign, where Soviet assets are to be sold to a group of private investors. And guess what? I'm set to become the biggest among them. You've probably heard of Bernie Madoff, the infamous criminal mastermind behind the largest Ponzi scheme, estimated at 65 billion USD. Well, he's a small-time crook scrapping for pennies compared to me. Some say that by July 1994, I had amassed over 180 billion USD. But my actual goal is to control the majority of Russia's industrial and economic assets. Or should I say it's just the first step toward world domination, towards something I call the financial apocalypse. You wouldn't believe how close I am to realizing my dreams, yet you still don't even know my name. Oh yeah, that's me. Back in 1976, a fresh graduate from the Moscow Institute for Electronic Engineering, I'd just started working at a research institute, earning a salary of 110 Soviet rubles. Is that a lot? Officially, it's about 160 US dollars. Realistically, it's more like $5. Ouch. In a country of permanent deficit, surrounded by a concrete wall of communism, there is only one way to get by. And it sure isn't by working hard for $5 a month. So I'm starting pirating and selling copies of audio cassettes and later videotapes. You remember those, right? The bulky plastic cases and grainy VHS tapes. But there's just a tiny problem. Any kind of commercial activity is illegal in the Soviet Union. But I'm a small fish, and I'm staying under the radar, swapping copies of the latest Rolling Stones album for a piece of beef or a mashback of tangerines. You think that's funny? Don't. These are elite products, totally out of reach for an average Soviet citizen. Who the hell is that?
Mr. Mavrodi, you're under arrest for commercial activity.
Oh, shit. I'm behind bars, guys, facing the very real possibility of spending several years in our beloved Gulag. But I got lucky this time. While the prosecutors were preparing an indictment, the Central Committee of the Communist Party issued a decree about excesses, ordering all charges related to minor economic violations to be dropped. I'm walking out scot-free. This time. But now they will have their eyes on me, goddammit. I can't believe I'll have to leave like my colleagues at the Institute in a constant humiliating fight for sausages. Citizens of the Soviet Union, the Supreme Soviet of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics established the following. Starting from May 1st, 1987, it is allowed to incorporate private companies, cooperatives, consisting of members of the same family to carry out commercial activities. They finally gave in. This crumbling empire eventually realized that private enterprise was its only hope. Of course, there were still a bunch of restrictions. You had to have a regular job, you couldn't run a business full-time, you could only hire family members, and anything over 1500 rubles meant a 90% tax rate. To the commies, we were still class enemies. But hey, it was something. We were already in audio and video production game, with experience and equipment to back it up. So now we're almost unique at the market. It's 1989. I, Sergei Mavrodi, along with my brother Vyacheslav and his wife, Olga Melnikova, founded the cooperative named MMM. We have enough cash to import our first shipment of IBM 8080 computers and Xerox machines. At the time when any random guy from the village could earn a fortune by selling bootleg tobacco on our back street, we're in the elite business. In the top league. Anyone who is selling PCs now would become a millionaire in just a few years and would be entering the financial elite of the new Russia. The Soviet Union is in its final days. After a failed coup d'etat in August 1991, it's one foot in the grave, and finally, the inevitable happens. Like a nice Christmas present.
Я прекращаю свою деятельность на посту президента СССР.
СССР больше нет.
Just 4 days later, it was announced a giant heritage of the Soviet Union assets would be distributed among Russian citizens. Every citizen, from newborns to elderly grandparents, would receive a voucher with a nominal value of 10,000 rubles to invest in any company on the market. The idea was to give ordinary people a share in the country's wealth. For instance, you could exchange your voucher for 2,000 shares of RAO Gazprom. But of course, there is always a catch. Imagine you are a Russian citizen who spent your entire life in the Soviet Union under the boot of the planned economy. You have no idea what capitalism is, what a free market is, or how a stock exchange works. You are used to getting a fixed salary, whether it's 110 or 130 rubles per month, regardless of your profession or location. You are accustomed to fixed prices. 2.20 for sausage, 2.40 for vodka, whether you are in Moscow, Vladivostok, or Sochi. Prices are the same, and so are salaries. You are inherently unprepared for what is looming. Now you are holding your voucher at a stock exchange. What are you going to do? Are you buying shares of Gazprom, or Russian real estate, or Hapur Invest, or Russian house selling of Vlastelin or Chara, or Hermes Finance, or Ava? Keep in mind, you have no idea that Gazprom will grow into a state monopoly, while the others will be bankrupt by the end of the century. You're just a standard Ivan, so maybe, just maybe, you'd want to bring your voucher to MMM, because I can handle it much better than you can. Wow, you know what? This is not just once in a lifetime opportunity, this is once in a civilization time opportunity. Circumstances like this might not come around for thousands of years. And I love it. From this point on, I know exactly what to do. We keep making money importing computers, but now we add a new type of business: voucher privatization. Everywhere you go, you hear about MMM. We're swimming in money. We're so successful. We made the entire Moscow metro free for everyone, twice in 1 year, and even covered the trains with our branding. We're everywhere! When you call a public service 100 to check the time, the first thing you hear is my commercial. We make sure that MMM is on everyone's mind.
Нас знают все.
By the end of 1992, I incorporated 2 new companies: Open Joint Stock Company MMM and MMM Invest. I made myself rich, and now I'm gonna make you rich. Just bring me your voucher. However, Yeltsin and his band quickly realized what was going on. They weren't happy with people bringing their vouchers to companies like mine because we actually knew what to do with them. We knew where to invest. But that wasn't part of their plan. Their plan was to trick unsuspecting people into spending their vouchers on fly-by-night firms. It was a scam from day one. Soon they would make it illegal to aggregate vouchers. From hereafter, only individuals could buy shares. Well, if they want to play it dirty, let's play it dirty. I stop accepting vouchers and trust, but I have a loophole for you. I suggest that you buy shares in my company using your voucher. That's still perfectly legal. I issue 991,000 shares, each with a nominal value of 1,000 rubles, and I'm gonna make sure you're aware of this opportunity. You know, there is a nice tradition in Russia. Just before the new year, on December 31st, the head of the state addresses the nation. But if you turned on TV on December 31st, 1993, who would you see? President Yeltsin?
Здравствуйте. Я Сергей Мавроди, президент объединения МММ, которое знают все.
No, it's me. It's always me. I'm ubiquitous. On February 1st, 1994, my shares are available for everyone. You can buy them with a voucher or cash if you prefer, but here is the deal. I'm only selling at the nominal price for the first week. After that, tomorrow is more expensive than today. On February 7th, one share is 1,000 rubles, but on February 8th, it's 1,050. On February 9th, it's 1,100. You got the idea, right? I sell my entire stock within days. Then I issue the same number of shares for my second company, Invest. By the end of February, they're sold out too. We're raking in about $50 million a day. The flood of cash is so massive that we're not counting it by stacks or even boxes. We measure it by rooms. An entire room filled with boxes of cash. I want to make another share issuance. But this time the Ministry of Finance starts asking stupid questions like, "What kind of business are you running, Mr. Mavrodi?" I'm not doing anything, you silly. I played by your voucher rules, but do you know what I'm aware of now? You're planning cash privatization in 1995, and guess what? When you start your campaign, I'll have the biggest pile of cash, and I'll bring you on your knees.
Mr. Mavrodi, we're declining your request for additional share issuance.
Oh, really? Okay, then. The other day, I was walking down Arbat Street and noticed some cigarette vendors weren't selling by the carton or even by the pack. They were selling by the stick. Obviously, they were avoiding the excise tax this way, but it got me thinking. If I can't sell shares anymore, why not buy back some and split them into smaller units? So I start selling tickets instead of shares. Each ticket represents a fraction of a share, but legally, I'm just selling a printed product. There is no law against selling printed products, right? And that's the right move. Within weeks, the price of one share skyrockets beyond the average salary. I want more. I want people to believe that tickets are better than rubles, better than dollars even. So I set it up so you could come to my warehouse and buy a PC or a washing machine or a microwave oven with tickets. How about that? Instead of this piece of garbage called ruble that may lose a half of its value within a month, my currency only goes up. And of course, the commercials. Not the usual boring ads telling you to buy something because it's cool. No, these are clever ones. It features a character named Lyonya Golubkov, universally hated guy, the lazy, always hangover neighbor. But now, he's thriving without lifting a finger. He's buying new boots for his wife, then a car, then an apartment. He's hanging out with his hard-working brother at the 1994 World Cup. His brother is in tears, thinking hard work was the only way, that his drunk sibling was a lost cause. But now, the lazy one is the king, the top dog. You don't want to be like him, but you definitely don't want to be less successful than him. You don't want to be the loser who lost his only chance, so go and buy tickets today, because tomorrow is more expensive than today. This is a gold rush. Operations involving tickets accounted for over 55% of the entire stock market. And well, that was bound to raise some eyebrows. The folks in the Kremlin slowly realized what I was up to, what I was planning to do to all of them.
Mavrodi here.
This is Prime Minister Chernomyrdin. Mr. Mavrodi, we need to talk. We expect you in the Kremlin tomorrow at noon.
Oh,
Don't be late.
sure. This guy thinks he can control me because he's the prime minister. And I'm just a commerce. That's how they call us, commerce. But of course I'm gonna make this commies wait. And of course, I'm not showing up. Why would I talk to those red con artists? I have nothing to say to them.
Today, the Federal Anti-Monopoly Service issued a permanent ban on all commercials related to investment companies. The Ministry of Finance introduced a law regulating the circulation of securities, treating any parts of company shares as financial security. And in other news, and Invest are under scrutiny for potential tax evasion.
So, the Empire strikes back.
Mavrodi here.
Hey, Sergei, there's a rumor going around that we've stopped payments. We're in serious trouble.
Make sure everyone gets paid tomorrow. I see what you're doing. The voucher affair wasn't enough for you. You're trying to secure your pocket oligarchs, making sure they are the only ones with assets for cash privatization. If I make it through to 1995, the Soviet heritage will be shared among my investors. But you don't want that. You don't want the wealth shared fairly. That's lousy, even for you. But I swear, if you don't stop, I'll call for a nationwide referendum and declare a vote of no confidence against the government. I have 30 million investors backing me and you're trying to shut me down like bloody Al Capone? Is this even for real? On July 14, 1994, they're breaking into my office with a search warrant, grabbing everything they can find. I'm in hiding. I've got a few former KGB and Special Task Force agents on my security team. I know their every move. They won't break me. They won't even find me. Mavrodi here.
They took it all.
What? What do you mean they took it all?
Sergei, they took everything. The money. They found it and took it all.
While I was hiding, they found my various apartments and offices, and they took all the cash, loading entire KAMAZ trucks. They got what they wanted. Now investors are in panic, laying siege to my office, but I have no liquid assets to pay them off. This is it. But there is still a glimmer of hope. Due to a major government crackdown on our organization, I'm forced to reduce the price of our shares by a factor of 127, back to its nominal value. So now one share costs 1,000 rubles, again. But this time, and I promise, the price will increase exponentially. It will quadruple every single day. I'm committed to paying back every single one of you. And nothing will stop me. In August 1994, I get arrested for concealing revenue and tax evasion. But what if I told you that was part of my plan from the very beginning? From an ordinary person's perspective, it looks like I am an innocent entrepreneur taken down by shady government officials. So now people are rallying behind me. They believe that if they get me out of prison, I'll pay them back. Many of them lost their savings, their cars, their apartments. Some lost, literally, everything. They have nothing to lose but their hope. And I'm their last hope. I have decided to run for a seat in the parliament in the upcoming October 30, 1994 elections. My only promise, if you elect me, I'll get your money back. Members of parliament in Russia have immunity, so I'm released immediately after I am elected. That's all I really need. I'm not interested in legislative work, so I skip sessions. Instead, I'm out there looking for my money. My investors' money. But it seems like this time, my opponents did their homework. And honestly, I'm taking my hat off. Here's the thing. I had far more than just 2 aforementioned companies. One of the investigators noticed I had a large collection of rare butterflies in my apartment, and he started thinking, what if I named some secret companies after those butterflies? There were dozens of them, which I used for structuring. When they raided my safe houses and took my cash, they essentially stole from those companies. But since only MMM was officially under investigation, they only had to reimburse investors with the assets tied to MMM, not from any other company. Pretty clever. They took the money and made it vanish into thin air. So now when any plaintiff asks for their investment back, they point to $800,000 they secured from MMM's main office, saying that's all they got. Where is the rest of the money? The head investigator bashfully takes his eyes off. We failed to establish the location of the funds. Scumbags. They were okay with taking my money, people's money, in the most blatant way possible. They probably got me this time. Okay, you won the battle. Maybe I'm just showing my age. On October 6, 1995, Parliament terminates my deputy's authority due to my permanent absence from sessions. Fair enough, I was only there once. But who cares, right? The next day, my security informs me that the investigation has been reinitiated and I'm charged with multiple counts of wire fraud and tax evasion. I tried to seek a new term in Parliament as a member of the People's Capital Party, but by then, they'd already spread lies about me all over TV. The fire of television man. I know it even better than they do. This time, I'm not gonna make it. In September 1997, they declare MMM bankrupt, and by December, there is an arrest warrant out for me. I must disappear. They would tell everyone that I took all the money offshore, escaped Russia with a Latvian identity, under the name Glebas Victoras, and that I was seen in France, Malta, or Miami. They would claim they did their best to arrest me, but I vanished into unfriendly jurisdictions, laughing at the poor Russians I allegedly stole from. What a cheap masquerade! I never had a Latvian passport. I didn't even have a Russian international passport. I never left Russia. In fact, I never even left Moscow. I spent the next 5 years in a rented apartment, just a few blocks from where I used to live. That's how hard they tried to find me. But I didn't just sit idly. The rise of the internet. I didn't need to be anywhere physically to do business. I launched Stock Generation, a game with fake stocks you could bet on, aimed at my American fellows. It was registered as a gambling game to avoid unwanted attention from the Securities Commission. They only shut it down when the number of clients who lost money exceeded 2 million. That made Stock Generation the largest online fraud at the time. But what fraud are you talking about, boys? It was a gambling game. I'm proud to be a pioneer in these new prairies for you. I'm proud of stock exchange. They're breaking down my door. Finally. I'm in custody in Moscow's Lefortovo prison, charged with 1 count of wire fraud. Do you want to know the real reason why they bothered to get me behind bars recently? It's because MMM Invest holds 8% of Gazprom shares, and they think they can pressure me into giving it up by locking me in a cell with serial killers and maniacs. Do you really believe that would scare me? Do you think you can intimidate me into giving you my assets? No way, guys. I have nothing to do with MMM Invest. That's my brother's company, and I cut ties with him long ago. Besides, here is what you missed about me. In these cells with all those criminals, I was the menace! They shivered when they talked to me. A former assault regiment sergeant turned hitman once looked into my eyes and said, he'd never seen the man as cruel as I am, so reconsider your approach. The Moscow City Court finds me guilty of fraud and sentences me to 4.5 years in prison. Considering the time I've already spent in custody, I'll be out in just 6 months. While in prison, I wrote several books. Not particularly good ones, but it's an excuse to stay in public eye. Picture this: a convicted oligarch who supposedly owned half a country appears on talk shows as a fiction writer. For these journalists, I'm like a prime ribeye steak. Roast me, keep me under constant fire, just keep talking about me. Keep me in the spotlight, that's all I need. It's a win-win for both sides. I start doing covers of classical music, reciting my lyrics over them in the most obnoxiously untalented way.
Пусть мечты уходят навсегда и в никуда. Не жалейте в этой жизни ни о чем и никогда.
I look like a freak. Everyone says that Mavrodi has lost his mind, that he's just a madman who lost everything. But I have a plan. On January 21, 2011, I make a primetime appearance on one of the highest-rated TV talk shows and announce a new financial foundation, MMM 2011. You create an account through the website and invest in electronic currency called Mavro. I promise returns up to 100% per month. And I'm clear about it. I tell everyone explicitly it's a financial pyramid, that you can and probably will lose your money. You are probably wondering, who would invest in this? I'm a convicted fraudster. Well, I have a PR bomb for you. On April 7, a feature film called Pyramida is released, starring the much-loved Alexei Srebryakov as me. This movie portrays me as a cold-blooded genius, with math and economics rooted into my reasoning so deeply that there is no place for feelings. A villain, but the perfect villain. Who financed the production of the movie? Why did it premiere in the middle of my new investment campaign? Well, we'll probably never know. I even brought Lenya Golubkov back on stage. Sure, time hasn't been kind to him, But something about it resonated. This deep unconscious feeling had its metallic grip over people, a feeling that something important is happening, that they're going to miss their only chance. People start bringing in their money. Even those who lost everything in 1994. I have no legal ties to the company this time. In fact, there is no company, just countless self-organized cells with dedicated bank accounts, often personal ones. It's more like a political party, or a cult if you prefer. The only thing I do in person is update the exchange rate on the official website. And you know what? Tomorrow is more expensive than today. I know what you're thinking. That's a Ponzi scheme, and Ponzi schemes always collapse. You've seen those diagrams that amateurs like to draw, showing how any pyramid scheme eventually runs out of new participants. But allow me to disagree. Sure, if you get in early and then pull out all your money later, the scheme is doomed. But what if you only take out what you actually need? What if you join the scheme multiple times? What if you are not a greedy pig, but you think about others, their needs, their desires, their hopes? What if you help others instead of trying to get rich of them? MMM could have been sustainable. And let me be very clear. If it hadn't been deliberately destroyed by the end of 1995, every MMM ticket would have been backed with shares in the most valuable Russian companies. But when you create panic, when you mess with people's fears and sense of insecurity, when you get everyone to withdraw at once, well, what legitimate bank could withstand that? This time I'm going global. Not just post-Soviet states, but Africa, Southeast Asia, India. The internet has opened a lot of doors for me. In the following year, I attracted 15 million participants. At least, that's what I claim. And when the pyramid finally collapsed under the weight of greed on June 16, 2012, I simply relaunched it as MMM 2012. We'll start everything from scratch. You just need time to get used to these instruments. You need to learn how to use it. I don't blame you, you are just ordinary people, but I'm patient. And I'll keep doing it over and over, using every means at my disposal until I succeed. And the corrupt governments worldwide face the financial apocalypse. It's early spring of 2018, chilly and bleak morning on Moscow streets. A poorly dressed man, unkempt and disheveled, is found at a bus stop. He's not breathing. It takes time to identify him. That man is me. No luxurious cars, villas, penthouses, and offshore bank accounts. That stuff never mattered to me. I was okay living in a bare room in front of a webcam, spreading my word. You may call me a fraudster, a cold-blooded con artist who ruined thousands of lives, but believe me, my dream was so much bigger than anyone's life. So, do you like me? Do you like me now? Do you like me? Do you like me now? Do you like me? Do you like me now? Do you like me? Do you like me now? Thanks for watching this one. I'm still experimenting with the format, and I guess I will be sticking to this first-person documentary style for a while. If you like what I'm doing, please subscribe to the channel and consider sharing this video on Facebook or Reddit. That would help enormously. I'm also grateful for your comments. Let me know what you think about today's hero or who do you want me to cover next. Your feedback is precious for me. Huge shout out to my patron Tomasz Halenkovich, and if you want to join him for some reason, then link to my Patreon is in the description. Check out my other videos. I'm the Nolan Philosopher. Have a good one. Oh putain, je suis fatigué.